So I want to just start by, super simple. I mean, we've had pretty back-to-back shootings of young kids here in Harrisburg. I would love to know, what are you guys talking about with your kids?
Um, the biggest thing that I've been talking with my kids right now has been the fact that they can't go out and do the normal stuff that they would normally do. The playgrounds have become we're gonna drive outside of our neighborhoods to go to the playground for them to play. We limit the time that they can play up and down the street. We limit where they can play at around the neighborhood because we don't know when the next drive-by or fight or shooting or anything that has pertaining to violence. And as a parent, you can't be everywhere. Even though we may open our doors and watch our children play, as they're riding their bike, when they get to that corner and they go to turn around, I'm still sitting in the living room. So that corner now has become off limits because you're out of visual sight. And it's heartbreaking because they don't see it. They don't understand the danger. They only see it as a punishment for them. So the hardest part with young children is regulating what they can do. I have teenagers that, we're constantly just having dialogue and conversations about what is acceptable conversation and when should you leave a conversation when it becomes hostile, how to identify when conversations are becoming hostile, how not to go back and forth on the internet with people because these are some of the situations that lead up to that violence. And it's disheartening to where you have to pick apart what is supposed to be a very fun time of a young person's life, which is their childhood. A lot of people, we have great childhood memories, and we have some bad ones, but we have a lot of great memories of playing and going to do different things, and you can't, one of mine was freeze tag, but we can't allow our kids to play freeze tag because we don't know. It's too much nonsense going on in the world, to give them that ultimate freedom of this is your neighborhood, you should feel safe in your neighborhood, because they don't.
Does anyone want to bounce off that? And
Yeah.
and like I said, I mean, this can be just like a conversation. If at some point you're like, I totally agree, like
Yeah,
this,
I agree.
you know.
Because one of the things that I strive to do at this time is to let my kids know, like when it was COVID time, this is an epidemic. Similar to like when it was the COVID, we had to come inside, we had to find out who you was. It gave you some time to self-reflect. So these are the things that we do that I try to strive with my kids, do things that we haven't been doing in a while, reading, writing, creating books, learning a little bit about the law, understanding the law of the Most High God, what He wants us to do. That is the most important thing that I've been striving to tell them is that, you have to be a little bit more stronger than your environment. And I strive to lend my confidence to them because I want them to understand that society will paint a picture of you. So you got to understand that you're the good artist, and all good artists should be able to erase their mistakes.
Right. And I'll ask you guys, I mean, for everyone, I mean, as you're having these conversations with your kids, I mean, teens especially can be tough. How do you know that they're grasping what you're saying and they're grasping the severity of these situations?
I mean, it kind of just takes time, especially with something like this happening back to back. As for me, my girls, they go to Stilton Heights Fire School District, so they and I have teens, so they kind of know the young man. And my girls we did cheerleading, so we know the parent, not know them, like we're well familiar, but we know the young lady. My kids cheered with her, so coming into knowing that, we have to first open the floor because we have to speak their language. That's the difference. We're saying how far the gap is. The gap is that we're adults now, they're kids and they're teens, and we have to kind of figure out where do we fit, even in our households. Because that's the biggest disconnect. You don't understand me. Oh, well, I don't understand you because I don't understand your language. To be able to understand what you're going through as a teenager. We're not we have to also break that superhero syndrome. Because growing up, that's what our kids see us as. You're the super dad, you're the super mom, regardless of what I get into. Anything does happen. What's the first person they say to call? Who you want to call? What's the first call you want to make? Call my dad, call my mom. So we kind of have to break those kind of same things that we instill in them and teach them the communities that they have to reach out to. Even if they don't feel comfortable talking to us as parents, you know, that may be one of the things. But okay, you know, you don't feel comfortable to me, you can go to Mr. Ralph. You don't feel comfortable going to Mr. Ralph? Well, we go to church. You can go talk to your youth pastor, just as long as you're talking to somebody.
He usually stops at me, though.
Yeah. Yeah. But
He's
as long
like,
as
"It's
we
me, I'm the
are, you
one."
know, we're identifying those indicators as adults somewhere. Hey, this kid has some issues with anger. This kid is feeling kind of singled out.
And that's, not to cut you off, sis, that's what me and a good brother Ralph was talking about. Like, these are some of the things that I strive to teach my children as far as me mentoring other kids in the community. One of the things is there's a lot of invisible disabilities. And one of the things that I try to strive and point out to the youth in the community is those invisible disabilities. Like, for one, temptation. You don't see it because it's invisible. And that can become a disability. And me teaching my kids the etymology, the study of the origin of word, helps them articulate what's really going on. Because as I'm coming down to their language, I want them to understand the language that they're going to need to be productive in society as well. Because if you sit there and you talking to me and we at home and I'll be like, you understand? Yeah. You understand me, Dad? You understand me? Because you want me to understand you. So it's a mutual street.
And I also think vital with that is before you could even speak to your children or child, you have to be intact as a parent yourself. How can you tell your children, stay off the corner if you're still hanging out? How can you tell your child, don't drink if they see you literally go in every day after work because it was such a hard day at work? Now, don't take me wrong. I know how hard life is. I come from the worst of the worst, right? But also, I made a peace within myself when I look at my children that this isn't the way. So something has to register as a parent, because if I'm telling my children and holding them to this expectation but not living that walk myself, what are the chances that those children are actually gonna not only really resonate with what you're saying, but have action behind it? So when I speak to my children, it's from a place of reality. I'm gonna teach them how to speak to other people, but also demonstrate when they see me every day and I'm in the market. How you doing, Mr. Johnson? Hey, Mr. Rodriguez. They see it. It was something that the board members just said last night with the students in the Leadership Academy. They've never seen such upfront handshake. He said when he came to our ceremony the other day, this was from the superintendent, he's never met a group of kids that was anxious to go up to him and shake the hand, ask him how his day was going. He's never seen a program like that. And that's a part of the life skills that you give. But not only that, giving opportunity. I know not every parent has the access or the ability, but there are resources and connections that could be made. Saying, I've worked a double shift, I just can't, I get it. And Queen and King, I respect it, and I'm here with you in that fight. But there are options where people can jump in and help. Nothing shy of a guidance counselor.
Yeah.
Right. So kind of going off of that, I'd love to kind of open this up to everybody too, is do we as parents who are having these conversations with our kids, do we have a responsibility to talk to other people's children who
Absolutely.
you might not know?
Yeah.
might not get to
Absolutely.
know?
Ma'am, yes. I'm in the streets all day, every day, doing positive, advocating, giving clothes, being the example that I want to see. Some people talk about it instead of being about it. Where I'm from Brooklyn, and I was taught that empty cans make a lot of noise. So I'm not on that vibe. My thing is, when I'm saying that I want to be the example that I want to see, I'm out here giving clothes to underprivileged people. I'm out here giving what I can. No, I don't have no big back end. I don't have no big nonprofit. I don't have no tremendous staff. It's just me and my sons. And I'm demonstrating to them that you never know a person's hardship. Only time you're gonna look down on somebody is if you're gonna be able to pick them up. And those are the things that I try to tell them. Use your third eye as your pineal gland, where as though you can see to upset the setup that society is going to bring to you.
Now, how well are we orchestrating our children's time? Do we know where they are? Are we doing audits in their room? What's on your phone? Let me manage your phone for an hour, once a month. Let me take down and download what's on here. Let me figure out who you're talking to.
Who's your
It's
friend?
my sole responsibility to know who they're in that room, because the worst things happen on social media with AI, on whatever game they're playing, whether it's the Fortnite or Call of Duty or Roblox. We was just discussing those messages on Roblox alone could be devious. It could be a stranger luring your child in, you would never know.
Yeah.
But you think he's playing or she's playing a harmless video game in the room. You have to take accountability, do audits in your home. Who you speaking to? How's your day going? Even if it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. Hey buddy, I know you're tired. How's everything all right? Well, I just want to let you know I'm home. You know, I'll see you in the morning, something. And I know it's perfect. I'm not perfect as I sit here talking to you at least, but trying, just giving that effort. You know, it is going to take a village. And sometimes if you have the permission, yeah, it might be your business to talk to the neighbor's children or the grandparents, because it might be just grandma or grandpa raising them. Dad might be in jail, mom might be in jail, parents might be deceased, horrible car accident. It happens often. Grandma and grandpa doing their best. That doesn't mean they're bad, you know, custodians or guardians. That just means they might need a little bit of community help and push. But if we never talk to each other with that, you know, real nostalgic kind of family feel, we would never know.
And it's that sense of belonging. That's why some of them choose to be in gangs and be disproportionate with this and this and that, is because everybody wants that sense of belonging.
Yes.
I think,
You know, and you could be doing a terrific job at home, but you got to remember, curiosity knocks on everybody's door. Now, sometimes a kid's brain might be diminished, whereas though he can't fit the real, because he's not seeing that, oh, I do have a mental. Or it might just be something within, you know, trauma or whatever the case may be. And it's some people as parents, nah, nothing's wrong with my son, nothing wrong with my daughter. And then those mental health problems go on and prolong, and they build and they build and they build until something happens and now it's too late. Well, now my son had this and this and that. So it's all about accountability.
I think one of the things that y'all are touching on that is detrimental is, as parents, you have to learn to find that fine line of being your child's companion, your child's friend, and learn to do the stern and hard choices. Going through your child's phone is very hard, because sometimes we're like, man, I really don't want to look in there and see something that I don't want to see. But if you don't, we're going to have conversations about why that child was led to do whatever they did, or why this child is now deceased, and why this child is going through these calamities, or why this child is in jail, why this little boy has an anger issue. We have to take those hard questions, stand fast in them, hold fast to our judgment, and say, hey, you're not going to be able to do this. And at the same time, you have to open up the floor and give them a chance to speak freely. Because once they get to a certain age, I don't want to give that trauma that you're afraid to say your truth, to where now you're going to hide things to where I am going to find it.
But I don't think that's treating them like a acquaintance or a friend. I think that's just being a great parent.
Yeah.
Because I think it's dangerous when you start treating them like a friend.
Yeah.
well,
You're not going to like me all the time.
Yeah,
No.
No.
well, you know,
And that,
to
sorry,
go
go
off of what all of y'all are saying, I shake down. It took me a long time to give my children devices. I just felt like it's you're walking around with a mini adult. You know what I mean? This thing is now a walking, talking entity of its own. So when you put that in the hands of a child, you're opening them up to a whole new world. And honestly, right now, it doesn't matter what device it is. You know, so I start off with, we gotta do random shakedowns. Everybody, even my little ones, because what I've studied, what I've learned, me and my husband, is that there's a lot of stuff, even kid-oriented, that's not kid-oriented.
Right.
So I'll tell you a story that my son likes watching, some realistic type shows where the parents and the kids are playing around in the background, and I call it weirdo TV. I really do. Because that's not what I'm used to. You know what I mean? Cartoons is cartoons. I'm paying $30-some for a Disney Plus subscription, and you in there watching YouTube. I don't want you on YouTube.
Yo.
You know, it's a rabbit hole. But then you're telling me I'm watching Ryan and kids. Well, I go, pal, I'm laying in the bed, I'm watching Cartoon Saturday. You know, I'm brought up watching Saturday morning cartoons. So I hear the adult saying, have you ever ran away from home? So I'm asking my son, I'm like, are you watching Weirdo TV again? So he's like, no. So he turns it down. So I hear the other adult asking, well, how do you identify yourself? So I, immediately, now my thing is, I'm taking the TV. You punished for a whole week. And my husband came in from work. We took the TV off the wall. We took the remote control. I take my 16-year-old and my 14 going on 15-year-old, hand me your cell phones over. And don't you press another button. Don't you move. And if at that point you feel like, oh my gosh, you're running my life. No. Let me help you understand the difference between when you're saying I'm running your life. Okay, this is telling you when you can use the bathroom, when you can't use the bathroom. This is telling you when you can eat and shower and when you can't eat and shower, okay? That's DCP running your life. What I'm doing is I'm saving your life. And after that, then we can have the open floor conversation. By no means are you in trouble the first time when I identify what's in your phone. But those indicators right there, they tell me what my child is perceived outside of the home, not what they're perceived in front of us, because in front of us, they're always going to want to put up this wall of who they are, like we want to put up this wall of who we are. But first thing I do is I tear down every wall, every statistic in my household. If you thought that I was this perfect parent, well, let me show you pictures, and this is what I did in my life growing up. Now you see where I made the change. So you can't say, oh, you don't know. Oh, I know, because once upon a time I was in a gang. I'm from New York. I can tell you about really rough streets and really rough times. I was homeless before. I did eat sandwiches to survive. We did grow up going to the pantry at one point in time. So any place you want to identify, come to me first, because I'm going to tell you something that your friends are not going to tell you. I'll help you understand where you're going. And then at that point, if you still want to go down that road, then I got a list of what we can do proactively next. And if your friends are with you, baby, I'm calling their parents too. Whether it's on the phone or in person, that is my job. It's my job to not just parent minds, but others. And it's not really parenting, it's caring. When did we stop caring about other people? When did it become the nosy neighbor? Well, bring those nosy neighbors back, because you know what? They kept our kids safe. When we went away and we went on a vacation, they kept our homes safe.
I want to touch on something before we get lost on this point. It's really valuable. You glazed over it, but it's very important. You can tell what your child is internalizing on how they're behaving. If you pay close enough attention, I almost guarantee when you take their device and press search, you will see the last 20, 30, 40 things they researched. And I almost can guarantee you will see their actions displaying as such of what they're researching.
Some of them are smart enough to try to delete that history, but that's
what
you tell your children about how.
But hold on, I don't want to get caught in
away.
semantics. What I'm trying to say is a lot of times you can't understand why they're being a certain way. It's what they're internalizing or being allowed to internalize.
Well, kind of going off that, I want to ask you guys, especially specific to what's going on. I mean, we're seeing shootings, gangs. What do you guys think the impact of social media and the music these kids are listening to?
Man.
It's the driving force.
Yeah, that's the Matrix bill. You know, if a kid is colorblind, he can't really see.
Well, it's entertainment and what they ingest. That's what I was just saying. It's what they ingest. It's not just music or magazines. It could be commercials.
It's a
You know how many
mixture,
commercials I've seen with Lucifer popping up on a Nike ad?
You know, you put it's like you put a bunch of seasonings in a pot and you try to figure out what you're gonna get. So we can't just blame it on the music in itself. But
what I wanted to touch on is that I don't agree with it. And I'm gonna give you my reasoning why. See, I am a recording artist. My music is negative to some degree because it's what I grew up with. You grew up in New York. I grew up in Richard Island Projects in North Philadelphia in the '80s. When it was all beat down and it was all bad.
Billy.
I went through all of those things, but what I went through and I use as an artistic outlet. They understand it. My children watched as their dad got carried away and went to the feds. My son watched as I was stabbed on a robbery and left to die on his doorstep, and he was 2. They've seen all of these things. Now to say that is they're grown with no record. So I hear that.
And your daughter's music 100%
100% positive because
100% positive.
she has no recollection of none of those incidents. So there's no reason for you to talk about twerking. There's no reason for your music to describe any type of violence. So when we say that it's the social media and these things, I think it gives parents a crutch to not interact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, because we'll say social media, we can't stop social media because the schools incorporate social media now. Schools got a time window. Hold on, wait a minute, because my kids is in Stilton too. They got a whole hour where they go and they study hall and they're allowed to pull out their phone and go through their phone. So, and if I don't have a phone, I got a laptop. I get a tablet from the school. So don't think because we take these devices that we're going to stop this engine, because the world is the phone and the media now. If you do a survey of how many people have a house phone, you'll lose.
But the difference is in school they can't get comfortable and put their logins and talk to their normal
not at all.
profile, and that's the only
Let me
difference.
tell
So if
you.
it starts at home,
My thought was, my point was, let's not put the social media on that. Let's not, because there's so many people.
what you meant, like music?
No, but even the music.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of kids that's right now, Kasim and Kiev, they're in the school to be doctors.
Absolutely.
And they grew up on the same music.
I gotta agree.
Your sons.
I ain't even
No,
gonna touch that yet. I
I'm
ain't
gonna
even
touch
gonna
it though.
touch that yet.
I'm gonna touch it though. He was a recording artist.
Facts.
He was in the streets.
Facts.
And he's been in his kid's life since day one. And he changed his life around. It's about what we do as parents. We don't have the time to always do it because we do work those 2-hour jobs. I see that iron worker shirt on there.
Absolutely.
So I know you.
He's on lunch break.
It's 14-hour days coming with that because I've been in that
Touching
field.
on what you said though, Coach, it's important because I didn't want to touch on it because sometimes I don't want to make myself seem more than what I am. But if you are that example, my kids saw me run for office. My daughter and son ran for council president. They became council president and vice president of their school district, right? Because they see dad doing it. But if the same instance, if they see me on the corner talking, get money, they're gonna look who's on my dad.
Now
Maybe.
that's what I think. I think for me, I think of it two different ways. Like I said, natural and spiritual. So I'll tell you both sides of how I think because I was part of a rap team. He knows that lyrically I'm still there, but I just choose not to. But again, I open my kids up and show them all different sides of the life. But for some parents, they don't have the option because they work. So if you're not pouring into your kid, that same negative rap music is pouring into your kid because everybody wants to be accepted, everybody wants to be loved, and at this age, those kids are trying to figure out who and where they identify with and what they fit into.
So what I can say is the last two people that were deceased due to gun violence.
God bless their soul.
God bless them and their families. My condolences and prayers go out to your family. I knew both of them, and both of them, despite what they did on social media, had parents that cared, had parents that talked to them, had parents that were going in trying to diffuse situations and give them a different thing. I watched Antoine Jr. grow up. So I know his dad personally very well. He gave everything. His last breath he gave to make sure that his son didn't go through the same thing that me and him went through in North Philadelphia. So it comes apart to where we keep saying the social medias and we keep saying this, but how can we blame the music? Because in the 60s and the 70s, the rock music talked about being drug addicts and everything else. You don't see drug addicts all through this country in these higher positions because that's who's the judges and that's the elder one in council, those CEOs. All of them went through the same thing. Every generation's had the same problem to where we will always say, well, it's the music.
But to piggyback on that real quick before we diverse anywhere else, your youngest daughter knows your music and requests your songs, but is a great student, a great woman.
Yeah.
My boys play my music even when I don't want them to.
Yes.
I will come home sometimes and they're out here, who got, but they're like, that one's my, I love this song, but they're honor students.
I don't know. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something.
That's the part where I have to say
and
about
then here's the thing, right? My kids, I'll tell them, I don't listen to secular music, and I don't, because I believe that certain music before now I do the history and I do a little more spiritually. Certain music before the record even plays, there's stuff that's impressed on that music. There's artists that actually then it's not part of an act, that's out front now, because you don't have to hide anything. That's out front, literally telling what they do to that music before the words is even played on those tracks. I mean, technically, like I said, it takes both parts. So again, like you said, if your mom's on the court and twerking or in the club twerking, you most likely gonna follow your mom. But if your mom's doing it and the music's telling you it's cool to do it, then that's fine. Like I said, I got teenagers. Not all of them are perfect, but what I see out of some of my teenagers is completely opposite of what I do on a daily basis. I'm a PCA in a school. I keep a certain role model and repertoire because that's not what I want my children to do. It's not how I want them to act. But when I hear my daughter outside, when I picked up her phone, like I said, I go through the phone, and she's listening to this music and that music, and I'm like, I don't listen to that. Now, I'll show you some real righteous rap music, but you, first of all, you don't live that life. So you can tell your story, but what rights did you have to listen to it? And then you listening to it, and it's inciting something in you. Yes, we all have music, and not everybody is susceptible to falling into that gap where they know who they are. But those are the ones that know who they are.
But
3 6 Mafia back then was known to have an influence that put kids in trances. You know, they said Jim Jones caused kids to actually drink syrup. You know, scissor. You understand what I'm saying?
Devil's advocate to that, sis.
It just depends. It just depends on the music. Like I said,
but it was still boiled down to the
look
parents
as older as I
getting ahead of it.
That's the part I was.
It still would boil down to the
parents.
parents.
That's the part I'm getting at is what I'm saying
Get
is
ahead of it.
in today's society, there's no way.
It's hard.
In today's society, there's no way in God's green earth that you can stop your child from hearing it.
You can.
Because
TikTok.
the people, you may not allow it in their house, but
as you let it go.
person that she's on the school bus with, that's the first thing she's playing out her phone.
Watch
So
this.
you hear
Watch
it.
this.
Absolutely.
You're in. Hold up. You're in one of the bigger sports districts there is, right? As soon as you go to a football game, them songs are getting played in the stadium.
Absolutely.
You can't escape
Absolutely.
And I coach,
Commercials.
and I don't just deal with my children. I got over 39 kids that were in poverty that are in college right now, on scholarships, to where they didn't have father figures in their life. So this isn't just me coming through this.
So is there a difference between parenting and raising your children?
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely, because she is the parent, but if she's working 4 or 5 jobs to make sure that her household is she doesn't have the time structure to raise. This is why I want to touch and say it is definitely a village. It is our time to come back around, because in the 80s and in the 70s, if you did something wrong, I told you to stop doing what you're doing, and then I made a phone call up to your grandmom or whoever was watching over you, and then you got in trouble. And if you really did something wrong,
Miss Jenkins got you next door.
I got you, and then I took you home, and then they got you.
You ain't making it home.
But we have another big problem that we don't touch on, and I swear that it's a problem that needs to be talked about. Yes, you're right, social media and the music. But let's talk about the parents that make it okay for their children to be uneducated, uncoachable, unapproachable, and that is the filter that has to be talked about in these conversations, because they're not, because how can you say we want a village, we want to get back to a village, but when you pull their child up on something wrong, or the teachers are afraid to teach. Not because they don't have the curriculum, because they don't want to be assaulted when they leave.
They're leaving districts literally at an
Like,
all-time high.
when are we going to talk about those? I know music, but let's talk about, because and this is why I said this. It's because
we're not talking about your role, period.
No, what I'm saying is
you being a parent.
It bleeds into that.
No, but understand, you're here as a
no,
parent.
we're here as a parent.
You're here as a parent.
No, I'm talking about as a parent.
But you're part of this
Yeah.
community.
Well, I'll ask this.
The teachers are part of the community.
But you're here as a parent. I don't want you to put your job like you're here as a parent.
So this is what I wanted to kind of touch on as well, is, I mean, I've been hearing so many things, especially when these things happen, people look to officials. People got to do more. People say, oh, we need a curfew. We need to get these kids off the street.
That's what they
But
say.
then some people are like, but where are the parents in this? So I would love to ask you guys, who's responsible? Where does the blame
Can
fall?
I ask you this, right? Because listen, When we start looking for blame and this and that, for one, we wasting energy. For two,
Yes.
we're different
Yes.
in this situation. For
Tell
three,
your girls that all the time.
what we need to be doing is concerning, right? And stop looking at the officials and this and that. What we need to be looking at, where the guns is coming from. How these guns getting in these kids' hands.
Come on. Wait.
Are you talking about the dark net where you can order a ghost gun and you can do this and put it together and the kid can find out and play? Like, are we
Parts of the
talking?
law where there's already mandates, we just need to implement the law
Implement.
that's already
Who's
there.
driving these vehicles?
Who's enforcing these?
Who's
Who
enforcing
else is
these?
with these
These are the
children?
things. See, we're looking to blame officials and blame that parent and blame this person and blame him. No, we shouldn't be doing that. What we should be doing as a people, right? Picking people up instead of putting them down, because we're at a time where as though we're looking for healing,
Yeah,
not hurting.
But at least
we're looking for healing.
The truth is, if I'm a drug addict from over in the mountains and I know I got to come into the inner city for whatever I need, I might have a collection of guns but not too much money. I can come down numerous times a month, sell my firearm to whoever has whatever I need, go scot-free, and that young man or woman that gets caught with that gun will serve their
But
life.
just like he
They're
said-
scot-free though. They just got to put in, my gun was stolen.
That's the problem.
That's the back end we need.
But that's the problem. You know what's the problem is? It shouldn't be that comfortable,
Absolutely.
that easy to answer. And that,
Absolutely.
let me tell you, when I was younger,
Absolutely.
okay, the elders,
They
what
weren't
you
having
doing?
it. Yeah, they weren't having
Go
it.
to school or keep up out of our neighborhood. Even the ones
That's a
that
fact.
were on the corners were
Listen.
like, you can't be on our corners. And you kids, at this
Nowadays,
time, go to school.
To add on what she was saying is, when you think about it, you got to think about the guns. You got to think about, can you go in the bank with your mask? But you can walk a busy street with a mask on,
Yes.
and it's no problem. Philly, they banned it. You gotta
You
look
can't-
at the
you can't
things
do
that's
that down there.
you gotta look at the things that's really hurting. Those masks. It's hiding identities.
Yeah.
I blow your brain out. You don't know nothing. Hey, I didn't see him. Like, so these are the things that's going on, right?
They brought
But you
back
want to
the
blame,
phone
right?
mask.
Why we not blaming the people that make the masks? Why we not blaming the people? We don't make guns. We can't bring them here. So
New
who?
York banned them ski masks.
So the
but I
reason
seen
why
them coming back during
listen
COVID.
listen what I'm gonna say to that. First of all, most of them aren't ski masks. This is the misinformation that you'll have. They're actually motorcycle masks. They're meant for us to keep the wind from I ride.
Yeah.
So they're meant for me to keep warm. Because after you get to a certain, once I get on the highway, if you're in the car and it's 45 degrees for you, it's 23 degrees for me. So they're not meant for what they're used for. The masks that you see, they're called ski masks because they're actually ski masks. That's what they were meant for. They were meant for skiing. And our culture just turned around and said, hey, we can come out and put this on, and I know you can't see my face. You can only see my eyes and my lips. Now, what I say, we as a people, we got to stop looking for an excuse to where we can say, if it wasn't for this, and check our doorstep.
Absolutely.
If everybody starts to check their own doorstep and start going through phones, start giving them the hard conversations, start teaching them their roots, start teaching them back into understanding that it's okay to listen to an elder, bring back respect, start making your children say yes sir, yes ma'am, and give them a notion and take away the sense of entitlement.
Can I ask you guys something transparently? Has there ever been a time where you have taken your children's device and did not find anything inappropriate? There's not a moment. Every time I've suspected, when I took the device, it was as because you can sense the difference in behavior.
it
Why are you in
depends.
your room a little bit later? From my experience,
Yeah, from my
this is
experience,
what's been
I
going
got
on.
two
And when I
teenagers.
pull it, it's been on there, but I know how to address it. One time at the Harrisburg School District, they weren't supposed to allow to have Discord on their laptops. We actually found out that these kids are intelligent. They
Yeah,
can
they know how to
hack.
break- they
They'll
override
hack it,
that.
rewire it,
They
and be
override
able
it.
to
They
place
know.
something in
You
there.
know, and this is why I said what I said about the half, when they go in that long study hall, and they understand how to turn Google Chat into a private chat, to where even though Google Chat's on your phone for school, I know how to lock it to where the teacher can't see it. So one thing for sure, two things for certain, we're in a world of technology. And I think the biggest thing that we all come together and we have different reasons why we have these problems, but the solutions, we keep pulling up why something's going wrong. We keep looking for a crutch or to say, well, it wasn't me, it was the music, it was the schema. No. Let's go back to giving solutions. Let's put all the energy into fixing it.
And the solution.
So we give education, Now, not only give the child education, let's give the parent education. You know how many parents?
Hold on, King.
Hold on.
Hold on, King.
Hold on.
Add on to
Yeah,
this.
he's
No.
right.
But hold on. When you say education, on what level of education?
Hold on. That's why I said, hold on.
Okay,
You gotta let me
go ahead.
finish.
No, I want you to add on, King.
It's not the education of you going to school.
Book smart.
It's the education of, hold on, let me
That's
finish.
what I wanted him to. That's what I wanted
I'm
him to
getting
break
there.
down.
I'm
Yeah,
getting
King.
there.
Go ahead,
Let's
King.
Let's get them
Cook.
the education. Give the parents the education on how to go by, how to see these things, how to know what apps or ghost apps.
Yep.
They literally got an app that if you see your kid with a double calculator, that's not a calculator. That's hidden apps. That's hidden messages. It's certain things that is in phones. Now, when you open up iPhone got a privacy joint, and then they got a regular one,
Yep.
and you can hide them. So but a lot of parents don't have it.
They don't know.
They don't know it because they're younger parents
There's
growing
a
up in a world of
disconnect.
technology.
Yeah.
You know, and then once we do that, now not only do we educate the parents, but let's give the children new outlets.
At least, do you have children?
I don't know.
So
Let's give them new
just
outlets.
Google Docs, simple Google Docs, harmless document preparer, right? They have learned to tag each other into the document. It's pretty much like instant messenger, and it just disappears.
Yeah,
As it
I mean,
bounces
my
back
brother
and
is
forth.
17, and the way that I'm 25. Like, I would consider myself tech savvy, and I hear what like my siblings are doing. I'm like,
Absolutely, it's crazy.
but you guys are. That's what it is. It's like you guys are incredibly smart.
I
and
think
this is
that-
what you're
but
doing.
you know what I
they
think?
changed their. So we as parents, we were like, all right. So when we go to look through their messages, every parent in here that's looked through their kid's phone, I'll tell you, we've seen the same style of message. They don't type out the word. They type out just the beginning.
And
It'll be like IJS. I'm just saying. And then now that's for that, but the other words we don't know their slang.
Yeah.
So
It's
so
a lot
some of their
of
slang that they use, we be
Some
like,
of them, they don't even use
like-
words. They use a bunch of emojis.
yes,
and, that's
and
a
they
whole
use
conversation
so
right there.
and
And
so
that's
it's
the education
it's the
we were
part of
saying.
it's the part of educating the parents. Parents
Yeah.
need some type of site, some type of place to go and grab this information so they know how to combat
Because-
what they're going
Still,
against.
Can I say
I
that?
think that it's beautiful we're all here because this is what we're supposed to do as a community. But it
and-
still brings it back to community because if I'm a single parent and I gotta work to put food on the table, I can't afford to sit there
Somebody
because
gotta get your
if
back.
I take that time out,
so like what
then
I
I don't, you know what I mean?
But you know
Then
what-
who's
that's-
gonna provide
that
for
was
my
the part of
household?